Hari Om. A small analysis on the books that are practical and those that are theoretical. The stotras are theoretical. So like we say the Annapurnashtakam, the Lingashtakam, the Vilvashtakam, next other, whatever the stotras are, Rajarajeswari Ashtakam. So all these are stotras. That means we praise the Lord of Lords in a different ways, and we say the glory of his. So they are the theoretical books. So we by heart and we recite it like the slokas. Like suppose we say Sri Krishna Satakam are the slokas, 100 slokas written by a devotee. So when we read the slokas, that means our mind will be purified and our mind will be raised to a higher planes from the gross level. Actually from the gross level. Why we read these stotras is not for punya. So actually they say that reading the stotra will give us punya. And recently somebody asked that if we really dive in the waters of the pilgrim centers, do we get rid of all the sins? For that I don't know what reply they expected or which we can give. But by dipping ourselves in the waters, to what extent the sins we do it will vanish, or I don't know, because I'm not that great person to analyze and tell. But when they asked the question, somehow I got one answer, like how the people read the stotras and stotras and feel that they are going to get the punya, and it is a punya activity. Why we can say is because our mouth itself is something that doesn't keep quiet. It is so much used to gossiping. It is so much used to gossiping that if one person, if we happen to meet one person, we talk with him, and in the course of talking we say so many things. We say so many, that means on some other person, and we'll be engaged in such activities actually. So actually how the tongue will know the sweetness of this name of the Lord? So why this Tyagaraja Swami, he sang that Pibare Ramarasam? Pibare Ramarasam. Because it is the tongue must taste the sweetness of that name of the Lord. Unless the tongue tastes the sweetness, it cannot chant the name of the Lord. So actually it is to be tasted. So now coming to this, so to get the taste for the tongue, the sweetness of the Lord's name. So as in the Bhagavatam it is rightly said, the lotus knows not its sweet, but the bhaktas, but the bees that suck the honey. The Lord knows not his charm, but the bhaktas feel it full of love. I think it's very rightly said. Because actually the lotus doesn't have the sweetness. It is only the honey bees that take the nectar from the flowers, they will be knowing the sweetness. In the same way, how the people will know the sweetness of the Lord's name? Unless they taste it. And who will experience the sweetness of the Lord's name? Only the devotees of the Lord. I think it's very rightly said, because Let us take one example. A very that means a common example. Very common example which everyone can understand. Suppose we assume that, coming to mathematics, we assume that the Lord's name is a diamond, is the costliest diamond, and in our house we got a very big drum. Now we don't want anybody to see that diamond, so we put it in the drum. And on top of that, we put so many things. The bondages, the articles, the objects, then the other, what all we acquired in the life, we put all these. So totally we forgot about the name. We'll be engaged in all these activities, like saying on somebody or gossiping and saying at the back. So how will we ever try to understand the sweetness of the Lord's name unless we chant it? We chant it. So that's why I think in the good olden days, they made it a habit that as soon as we have bath, we have to chant the Lord's name or any one mantra. Maybe Om Namah Shivaya or Om Namo Narayanaya or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the Panchakshari, Ashtakshari or the Dvadasakshari, any mantra. So when we go on chanting, what happens? The thoughts in our mind will be so much subdued that the mind will be distracted from the worldly matters, and it will incline itself towards the Lord's name. Like suppose we chant one mantra, one naam. Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Namo Om. 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 Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Namo. Suppose we go on chanting like this for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We don't count. We don't count. We simply, for chanting's sake, to subdue our mind, to subdue our thoughts that always pass in the mind, because mind is compared to a monkey. So mind doesn't keep silent. It will never be silent. So even though we sit silently, the mind will not be silent. So it will be always thinking of unnecessary things. So to subdue the unnecessary thoughts that pass in the mind, like the clouds. So we go on chanting, and once we go on chanting, the tongue will taste actually. So if we eat gulab jam, we will know the taste of the gulab jam. If we eat a mango, if we see a mango, we will know only its beauty, but we eat the mango, then we'll know the sweetness of the mango. The tongue will taste it, and then we'll experience the taste. In the same way, the name of the Lord, if we take it genuinely, if we go on chanting, what happens? That means all the cells in our body, they get so much alert to the name of the Lord that every cell gets tuned to the name of the Lord. And so the thoughts also get subdued. So we enjoy. We go on doing this for several days, like some days together. Then it will be followed by months together. Then what happens? The tongue will have the taste. The tongue will experience the taste of the Lord's name. And then what that does the tongue do? Actually, even though that means we forget the hunger, we forget sleep, we forget other materialistic activities. A stage will come. A stage will come. A stage will come when we go on, when we chant the Lord's name, we feel that nothing in the world is so sweet as the Lord's name. Maybe that's why he sang that Pipare Ramarasam. So Ramarasam, that means Lord's name is not a juice for us to drink. Lord's name, let us write on a paper and then put it in a mixie, make it a juice and drink. It is not that. It is something that we go on chanting, and and a stage comes when we come to the most subtlest stage that we don't find any interest on the materialistic thing. And really blessed are such souls. They are blessed. Blessed are such souls who will be rid of all the 6 evils, vices, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsarya. And in that place, in all the 6 vices place, only love flourishes. And what is the love? It is not a narrow-minded love. It is a love that unites the soul. It is a love that unites the soul with the soul that loves. So here, because the soul is not a small one, it is the magnanimous. So the Chaitanyam, Akhanda Chaitanyam, that is everlasting, Akhanda Chaitanya. And we are also a part of the Chaitanya. When we experience that, then we always be inclined towards the soul, because actually the physical beauty will attract the eyes. The beauty of the thoughts will attract the mind, because thoughts will arise in the mind only. If the thoughts are beautiful, the mind will be attracted. That means the mind will be understood, and sometimes these thoughts only will expose the integrity of a person also. And if the responses are soft, that is the beauty of the heart. Like how the responses can be soft. Let us think for a while. Suppose we are doing puja, and Navratri days, now this very beautiful one, Navratri days. So everyone want to do this Navratri days very strictly to get punya. Actually. So why they do is they chant all this to get punya. So at that time somebody stands at the doorstep and they ask water, saying that they are going to die if they don't drink water. Then what generally people do? What do we do? We think that our puja is more important because we must not get up in the middle, and if we give, that means without putting anything to God, if we give to the person who is standing at the doorstep, maybe we don't get punya. In punya's place we get sin. Then what we do? We don't give. So that poor person, he will shout and he will go away. Then can we say that the heart is soft? Can we say that the heart is soft? No, it is not soft. So we are doing puja. But then if we give water to the person who is thirsty, and with that water if he gets life, then we are worshipping God. We are worshipping God. So puja is very much confined. But worship is not confined. Worship is 24 hours. That means 24 into 60 into 60. Every work can be offered to God. Every work can be worshipped as that given by God. And I think that is the best way to show gratitude to God, isn't it? So here, that Pipari Ramarasan, so when the heart is softened, we don't think of ourselves. We think of others. First priority we give to others, not even God, not even God. Because Daiva Manusharupena. Who is God? What is God? Is God an object? Can we buy God with money? Or can we find a place where God dwells? And can we say that only God dwells in that place only? So that is the extensive understanding. Extensive understanding. So Daiva Manusharupena. So divinity thrives in humanity. When we can understand that, then the heart softens. And then we think, no, our puja is not important. Doing service is more important. Because service to humanity is service to God. So this is the highest understanding of God, actually. So when we come to that stage, then we find that Lord's name also is so sweet. Our activities are so sweet. Our words are so sweet. Our looks are so sweet. Because the sweetness is not external. The sweetness comes from the inner shine. Inner shine. Inner glare. So this is the transformation. Actually, what is change? Transformation is not got on a single day for anybody. Neither the change. Gradual change from one thought to another, from the gross level to the next higher levels. Then we can understand the magnanimity of the God. When we can understand the magnanimity of God, then we can know the sweetness of the Lord's name also. Then we find nothing is sweeter than the Lord's name. Just as Tyagaraja Swami said, Pibare Rama Rasam. So Pibare, you drink. So generally we say we drink this, we drink that. So we drink Pepsi, we drink Mazza, we drink Coke, we drink Fanta, we drink so many other liquids or juices. But if we happen to drink the Lord's name, which is so sweet like the nectar, then we don't feel like drinking anything. If we look into the eyes of the Lord and we understand His grace on us, then we don't feel like seeing any other thing in the world. That was what happened to Surdas. So he was blind. But his devotion made the Lord come to his rescue when he was walking in the forest, when he was about to put his legs on the thorns and the stones that were so sharp. The Lord caught him, gave his one end of the flute to his hand, and made him walk on a bed of roses, on a bed of flowers. Surdas, he was blind. He did not know who was making him walk, but he understood. He could hear the tinkling of the anklets of the Lord. Then he understood that the Lord has come. Lord was making him walk on the bed of roses, on the bed of flowers that was so soft. He hadn't experienced till then. Then he prayed to God to just show himself once. He begged for mercy. And when the God showed his form, he was so melted in heart that he said that he did not want to see any other thing in the world again, because he wanted to keep the Lord in his eyes. So the Lord's name is so sweet. The Lord's form is so sweet. So there is no difference between the name and the form. Both are same. So both are same. So if we can experience the name, we can experience the form. So then one thing we can say that our heart is so small. And the Lord, the Akhanda Chaitanya is so big. Magnanimous. How can we make him fit? But he is such a kind, such a gentle Lord that he comes and sits in the heart. like a small baby, like a small boy, like how he sat near Surdas to listen to his songs. So Surdas ke ek dohe, very beautiful one. So here we must understand this. Understanding is more important. So when we can experience the sweetness of the Lord's name, when we can experience the sweetness of the Lord's name, then we feel that nothing is sweeter than the Lord's name, and nothing is more beautiful than the Lord's form. And the Lord's form will come and sit in our eyes. Whatever we see, we will see the world with His eyes. Then we find everything very beautiful, very beautiful. Then we can make our life itself very beautiful. I think that's a real celebration of being alive. Celebration of being alive. Yeah, that's a small analysis on the line Pibare Ramarasam. Hari Om.